minutes before we remove whatever pie weights we're using, and returning our crust to the oven for another 5 to 10 minutes until it's lightly browned and the surface is totally dry. Now, while it's still relatively soft, we want to trim off all that overhang so that our quiche will have a nice clean edge and we'll be able to get it out of the pan. Carefully shake out any errant crumbs if you made any, and set this guy aside to cool completely while we prepare our filling and examine our crust. As you can see, it's a light and tender short crust with many flaky layers and excellent snackability. Once you're done snacking, onto the filling. Now bear in mind that I'm making fillings for multiple quiches right now, so don't pay attention to how much I'm doing, just what I'm doing. We will have correct amounts in the written recipe on the website. To start with, some caramelized leeks. We're basically going to thinly slice some leeks and soak them in water for about 10 minutes, and then slowly cook them in a glug of olive oil over medium-low heat for about half an hour, covering occasionally and adding a splash of water if necessary until they are soft, brown, and jammy. Season those with a little kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper and set them aside to cool. Next up, some sauteed mushrooms. You can use whatever kind of mushrooms you like. I got some sliced baby bellas here, and so I can feel like a fancy boy, I've got some oyster mushrooms, which I'm going to cut off their root thing and roughly chop into bite-sized pieces. Now, mushrooms contain a lot of moisture, so it is especially important that we cook them prior to adding them to our quiche. I'm going to simply saute them in a pat of butter with a couple sprigs of fresh thyme, and I'm going to give them a little sprinkle of kosher salt, which is going to help draw out their moisture. We're cooking them for 7 to 8 minutes over medium heat until their liquid has released and evaporated and they're starting to brown. Lose the thyme sprigs and likewise set these aside to cool. Next up, some nice skinny spears of asparagus. Everyone in my
Good
life
job.
has told me that you should trim asparagus by snapping it, but I'm here to tell you, you can just cut it. It's fine. We're likewise chopping the asparagus into bite-sized pieces before dumping into some boiling water and shocking in an ice bath after cooking for about 5 minutes. Boiling will obviously par-cook the asparagus, and shocking it in an ice bath will preserve its beautiful green color. And cooling it off fast will prevent it from getting mushy. Last up, some simply sauteed spinach. A little bit of olive oil in a nice hot pan. Add way more spinach than you think can feasibly fit in there, and cook over medium-high heat until it's shrunk to about a bajillionth of its original size. At this point, we're going to crush in a clove or two of garlic and continue sauteing for another 30 seconds or until fragrant. Season with a little bit of kosher salt and freshly ground pepper, and just like everything else, set it aside and allow it to cool completely. Next up, the all-important custard, and once again, I'm making multiple quiches here, so do as I say, not as I do. And the recipes will be adjusted on the website. Into a medium bowl goes 2 large eggs, a half cup of milk, and a half cup of heavy cream. Whisk that together with a dash of white pepper until homogeneous. And then for a shallow quiche like this one, we're going to start by laying down a thin bed of Gruyere cheese, followed by any and all of our par-cooked spring vegetables. Then we're going to pour our custard over top until the quiche is very nearly full. It's going to puff up a little bit.